Wait for it now. Wait for it. Wait for it.
Whenever I hear that theme music coming on, I always think we should have like a Campari or something. It's like, do you know what I mean? Like some sort of sleazy Italian at a bar, you know? I don't mean, no offense to anybody that's Italian, by the way. But you know what I mean? But anyway, no, evening, folks. How are we?
Good evening. Getting very, very fancy now every week.
Ah, here's no doubt about us. No doubt about us. So there's not. I haven't got myself a whiskey poured. I'm going to put. I think what I'll have one of these. Just never see it set. Dark Silky. Because I haven't had a Dark Silky. Cask strength, by the way. Dark Silky Cask strength. Because I know everybody comes on here pretty much always says they have a Silky. So I'll have one myself. So, how be getting on, Carlos? All right.
Very good, very good. Yeah, just very busy. Got back from Oxford there on yesterday evening. So yeah, I was away for the second time in a month with work after not having any flights for 2 years. So.
Yeah, I've been flying about all over the place the past while. And head away again on Monday. Well, not flying. I have to go to Dublin on Monday, and then. This time next week we'll be in Scotland, so we'll be coming live from Caledonia.
Very nice, very nice.
Yeah.
Is it a great secret, or can you tell us what it is?
Oh no, it's work. It's work. It's 2 days, 2 nights in Dublin, 2 nights Belfast, a night in Pitlochry, and 2 nights in Edinburgh, and then back home again. And I'll be bouncing over the summer, guys. I'll be bouncing about all over the place, so there might be the occasional night where. I have to say
there might be the occasional exclusive from some distillery or another. Marty, mightn't there be as well?
Well, it could be possibly something. You would never know.
You would never know. There's James Doherty saying, "Evening, great timing to see a Silky being poured." Yes,
the dark.
We'll be getting done by Zuckerberg for product placement next.
It's a whiskey show. We're enjoying a whiskey of an evening. The only thing is. What I will say is the Dark Silky, that's the cask strength version I have there. And you do need to put a fair wee touch of water on it, but because it's 64.5%.
The kicker, all right.
Oh, yes, but it's lovely, lovely, lovely stuff.
I'm on the Waterford Cube myself. The original.
What are you thinking?
It's quite nice.
I like it, but I have to say I do like it, but I had it built up in my head that it was going to be a bit better than it is. I think over time, just with that sort of flavour drift as it goes along, it'll get better. You know, it'll just get better as a bit aged to it. You know.
Yeah. Well, look, every time I grab for it, I need to make sure it's one of the first whiskies I go for, because otherwise I won't get the cap off. Like, it took me quite a while, probably longer than I'm willing to. That if you push it forward, it breaks the seal a lot easier instead of pulling on it. Pulling on it, you'd be there all day.
Yeah, it certainly seals well. I know that. It's Vinlock, they call it. It's Vinlock, they call it. So, right, we've got a whole pile of people coming in here tonight.
We have indeed. We've got William Mcallen's up at Shane's Castle there. It's a Traction Engine Ferry. He's pretending to be Fred Dibnah. And Ireland just beat Scotland in the Ladies Six Nations. Tremendous ending. All right.
We'll be touching on a little bit of sport going for, later on, Peter. So, congratulations to the women's rugby. Ladies Six Nations.
There's Andrew McAllister saying you'll be an Albla Fedley then, yes?
Probably not. I'll be. I think I go where I'm told. I go where I'm paid to go.
Yes.
So I'd probably be at the Scotch Whisky Experience up at the Edinburgh Castle at some point. I would have thought would be where I'm normally there. Wherever else.
Even to Connor, even to Linda as well. Evening to everybody. You're going to stay with us tonight all the way through.
Yeah, of course.
Carl, because there's
Yeah.
an awful lot on, and a lot of it's relevant to you as well.
Yeah,
'cause there's
stuff. I'll be touching on it here, and then we'll get into a bit more depth on it whenever you give your auction roundup. But we'll start the news. Justin, give us the news theme.
we will. I will if we can find it. Here, I found it. There
Oh,
you
happy
go.
days! Slick professionalism. Excellent stuff. Brilliant. Now, first up, and Carl's going to get into a bit more detail in this, but we talked about it last week, and it was the Mcallen, the forgotten cask. Oh, I've just forgot all about it. Never released. Oh, it went to auction, and it ended up £915,500.
My God.
Yeah. With the buyer's fees on top of this, it ended up costing £1,017,000.
You think they'd cut them a deal, wouldn't you?
But the thing is, Mcallen have said once you buy it, you've only like a month to get it off site.
Oh, seriously?
What they're going to do with it? If you don't take it off site, what are they going to do? Just kick it out the door and let it roll in now?
Just drink it, I suppose. But,
Yeah. So it's just, well, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but it's not bad for something that they paid $5,000 for. $5K a lot of years ago. But
I have a hard time believing that it was forgotten though.
yeah,
they would have gotten like their fees for cask storage every
yeah.
year at least anyway.
I don't think Edrington would have forgot that there's a cask sitting there that they're not getting paid for. I think they would have clicked on some way along the line. But there's another record going to be set with Mcallen related coming up. Surprise, surprise. There's another auction coming up, and this time it's a 32-year-old Mcallen from two casks. Cask numbers 6986 and 6992. Justin, do we have graphics, my son?
I think we do. Just trying to work out which one they are.
You can play the video.
I can play the wee video. Yes, I can. Hold on. Is it called the Intrepid?
We went over this before. This is our rehearsal. We do this before, and I go over it. Right, Justin, this is what we're going to do. And then Justin forgets all about it. Yes.
I have it written down this week on a sticky label. For God's sake, look at that there. A sticky label.
And you still forget. See how slick
No,
it is we run card.
I don't have a broadcast assistant to help me.
Oh, Christ.
Line and Turnbull are delighted to welcome you to the launch of the Intrepid. This remarkable whisky from Mcallen, distilled in 1989 and bottled at 32 years old, not only holds the Guinness World Record for the largest bottle of whisky at 311 litres and stands 5'11" high, but it celebrates the remarkable achievement of 11 internationally renowned explorers. Unusually for any new release of whisky or whisky coming to auction, we're able to actually sample the whisky that is being created for the Intrepid project. Who better to give us more information and give us their opinion on this than Charlie McLean, internationally renowned whisky connoisseur and expert.
I am massively excited by being asked to look at this extraordinarily rare whisky, this unique, the largest bottle of whisky in the world. It's a wonderful whisky to enjoy with friends, and the size of the bottle would satisfy many friends. Sláinte, cheers.
The Intrepid project is coming to auction with Line and Turnbull on the 25th of May 2022 at midday.
There you go. What do you think of that?
It's 5'11", right? But I'll get a wee caveat in a wee minute, okay? One bottle of Mcallen is dear enough. But when you have a 5'11" height, 2 hogsheads pan, I reckon this is going to break a record when it goes to auction. I rather suspect that. Well, but Justin, pull up some of the graphics here a wee minute, buddy.
Hold on, we'll see. The auction looks like this here.
So the auction page is already listed up. Oh, by the way, I've got new broadband. I've got fibre optic. We've went the sort of 21st century here in Glenarm. Now, so yeah, it's all stable and everything. It's unreal. Pull it up there, Justin, on the full screen for us. Now, this bottle is 5'11" tall. Okay. However, there's a slight caveat to this, because it says on the listing, if you go down a little bit, for security and ease of transport to the new owner, the whiskey is now contained within 178 1.75 litre bottles, sealed glass bottles. So you don't actually get it in the big bottle. So I'm kind of thinking, well, what's the point? You know, you're auctioning off 178 bottles, which is not really that big a thing, you know.
Tell me you get the actual big bottle to take home with you. Tell me you get it. Tell me you get it.
Well, I mean, there's this comparison on the size front. That's how big the bottle is. Obviously, beside someone that's 5'6". So, yeah. So I think you just end up with an empty big bottle and 178 small bottles.
That's very strange, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, that's being advertised as you buy this big thing and the big cork going in it and all. You know, you're talking about problems getting off your cork off of Waterford. So yeah, it's already out of the big bottle.
Yeah.
And I suppose if you're going to spend £1.5 million on a bottle of whiskey, you maybe need to read the small print. But
yeah, that's true.
You know,
yeah, I don't understand. Like, it just adds an extra liability from one getting it into the big bottle and then getting it out of the big bottle again into smaller bottles.
I mean, I think to myself, surely if you can afford to spend £1.5 million, the transport's not going to be that big a problem to you. You know, surely getting it onto a pallet and a forklift onto the back of a truck.
Just hire us and we'll go over and get it for them.
Well, I wouldn't let Justin anywhere near it because you see how harmless Justin is at times. Yeah.
I'd like to get inside the bottle.
Oh, I'd love to see you getting corked in it and your 2 legs just poking up like that at the top of it. but you know, there's James saying about the health and safety. Surely it's a container filled with whiskey. It can't be that hard to get it shifted about. And I don't know. To me, it seems very strange that they've already disgorged it. Surely, if you were buying it, you'd want at least a photo of you standing beside your big bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
You know, but no. Apparently, it'll be filled with apple juice or something. You know?
It's a weird one. It's a weird one. I mean, look at that there. It doesn't look that big, that bottle. Is that one of the mini ones, or is that a full size one?
I think that's possibly a mini one. I don't know, because it's kind of hard to know whenever it's you know, whenever it's a graphic, you know, corresponding thing. But there's lots of other smaller bottles that are up for sale. So I don't know. It's to celebrate adventures. So Ranulph Fiennes and all's on it. Who I saw in the Waterfront Hall one time. Dead funny. Some of the stuff that he's done. Mental. Not joking.
How do you pour a bottle as big as Justin? Can you imagine standing him on his head to get a drop? A seesaw! You do it with a seesaw! You seesaw me in, you know, like those things, those tippy seesaw things you use to pour wine. Like that, that's how you do it. Seesaw.
Hold them like that and just dunk them in. Dunk, bunk, and that's the way you should do it.
What they need is one of those, you know, the bar utensils where, you know, you can get to like the 4.5 litre bottles. And you just standing up and, you know, you just go up to it and press the button. You like that.
Aye. Oh, no, I don't know. It just seems a bit odd that it's already disgorged. And they tell you that, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, surely if you're going to spend that kind of money, you would have kept it. There you go. So yeah. So next up, we were talking about sport earlier on and women. It's a great day for football. My family, because my son and dad are both Liverpool supporters. So Liverpool won. Forest won 5-1 today. We're looking like we're going for the playoffs. And Ballymena won today. And Ballymena is through to the Samuel Gelston Irish Cup final at Winter Park next Saturday. I'll not be there obviously because I'm working. But Whisky related, good on Gelston's for sponsoring the Irish Cup. And Ballymena's through to the final where they're playing Crusaders. So yeah, good luck to them. Also have to point at the most successful sports person in Irish history is fighting tonight, Katie Taylor, and she's an underdog tonight. She's fighting over in Madison Square Garden. First time ever a female boxing match is headlined at Madison Square Garden. So best of luck to her, and I hope she can do it and keep the titles and bring it back.
You got to remember, you've got to be at the airport for midnight to make that.
Justin, I'll be in my wee bed sleeping. I'll be in my wee bed sleeping when it's on. It's
Okay.
about 3 o'clock in the morning or something. It's on, but no, good on her. Hope she keeps the titles and brings them home. Now, the Irish Food Promotion Board BIA is going to start a new campaign, Spirit of Ireland, to promote Irish spirits. Now, it's going to be €750,000, so a big campaign. And a few weeks ago, we were talking about our favourite. Now, Justin's obviously preempting the thing. No point in worrying about build up we are, Justin, because he either doesn't bother, he comes in too early. Remember a couple of weeks ago? Now, he's going to die on me here, love. He's going to pass away.
No.
Now, remember a couple of weeks ago we were talking about our favourite whiskey adverts, and I said my favourite was the Mcallen one. You know, where it doesn't mention whiskey and you jump off a cliff and they start to fly, all that nonsense. Well, yeah, we discovered another one. This is going to be, we're going to go round participating distilleries, so includes IDL, Blacksmith Conceal, Clonakilty, Dingle, Tipperary, and others. But they've went and done Slieve League.
It was located on the far northwest of Ireland. This stunningly beautiful, rugged coastline, and the remoteness of the Slieve League mountain in particular, allowed centuries of poaching men, or bootleggers, to carry out their trade with little fear of being discovered. This is a land for spirits, a true synergy between soil, climate, tradition and terrain that creates the finest of liquids. We found all the key elements of pure water, expertise and unique ingredients in the land my parents left, and when we established our fine gin distillery, the first in the county for over 175 years, it was building on generations of expertise. These are just as important now as we open our whisky distillery in the historic town of Ardara, which overlooks the beautiful Lochras Moor Bay. We distill on the grain as our ancestors would have. We have 2 wooden Solera vats at the beginning of the process, not the end, and we only make peated Irish whisky. Not for us a patchwork of styles, just the singular pursuit of peated perfection.
So there you have it. Savoury Irish maritime gin and smoky Irish whisky, the true taste of Donegal.
What about that there?
Yay! Excellent stuff. No, I see James has popped in and says, forgive all the cliches. We'll only talk a wee bit about cliches later on. But looks fantastic. Great to see them actually getting behind all that kind of stuff. And well, now that it's becoming more and more an export industry, and it's good to see them getting behind it.
It is. It's beautiful down there, isn't it?
Well, it's beautiful down there. I think, I remember, I read this earlier on, I should have wrote this down, but I think there's about 20 distilleries signed up to doing this sort of... Now, you explain this, Justin, because this is not an ordinary video.
No,
explain this.
it's actually a 360 degree video. So when that video is playing on YouTube, if you had the goggles on, you could look around like that and look. You could look over that way, and then back that way. But when it's playing on a sort of 2D screen, if you scroll it around with your hand, I didn't want to touch anything there, because if I touch anything, it would have gone like that there. You can actually pan around and have a look around you. So if you fancy a trip up to Donegal, to Sleafly, you can sort of follow the drone that's flying about and look down at the sheep and look down at the rivers and all that sort of thing. It's really it's exceptionally well done. It is well done.
Excellent. Justin tried to explain this to me, but it sort of went over my head because I don't. He starts talking sometimes, and I just
It switches off. It switches off. It switches off. It's like when Marty talks, I don't listen at all. Oh boy!
But no, good campaign. And it'll be really nice to see all the distilleries getting lined up and see how it pans out. So really, really, really nice. I see James saying, Maura, here he goes again, banging on about Ireland with his English accent.
I know. Oh gosh. Peter Stewart says it was a great day visiting this. The number of people that says, "Oh, we wish we could have gone. We wish I had gone. We wish I had gone." It's your own fault. There's a bus light on and all.
We'll head down one some other time.
We will. I don't know where we're going to fit this in, because there's about 50 distilleries in Ireland now, and if we could do a show every weekend. If this Embrace a Giant Spirit sponsored us to the tune of £1 million, we could do each distillery live each week, and we get about 10,000. We get about 10,000 views. I don't know why they don't do it.
Yeah, there's ever across all the platforms. Anyway, no. So Carl, they'll get a lot more of these videos done, and they look sharp, and Justin explained them to me. I let when I was listening, but no, they look fantastic,
Yeah, I'll put the link in so you can go and look at it yourself and see what I mean. I'm going to put it in the link there. You go and watch it yourself and move it about. If you watch it on a tablet, if you touch the tablet, you might think, why is this looking at the sky, or why is it looking at the lamp? But you move it about with your hand, or if you've got a mouse or a touchpad, if you scroll up and scroll down as it's playing, it'll go up the way, down the way, left and right, like that.
Yeah, excellent stuff. Now, it was the Mcallen advert. I said was my favourite. James Dowd stepping in. Well, that was he was my favourite for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then there's another one has popped in as now my new favourite advert. Yeah, this one popped up.
Life's too damn short to follow the rules. Like the one that says Scotch is an old man's drink. Reserved for leather armchairs behind mahogany desks. Underneath portraits of bearded gentlemen. But whiskey doesn't care what's between your legs. Traditionalists will tell you it should never be messed with. That it's sacrilegious to add ice. Trust me, it's only sinful if you spill a drop. They'll tell you a single malt Scotch should always be drunk straight. But you know what? I don't do straight. Obey the rules, miss the fun.
Yeah. Whiskey doesn't care what's between your legs, apparently.
Oh, hold on! I've got to do it. Tonight on ITV3, an undiscovered carry-on movie called The Glenlivet. Next on ITV3. Enjoy.
Well, ever since True Blood was on, I've kind of had a bit of a thing for Anna Paquin. It's a hell of an advert. Good on her. It's just a pity. It's just a pity that she's advertising Glenlivet Founders Reserve, because it's bloody awful. It's absolutely terrible whiskey. It's like they've sort of given up. But yeah, I've got a new favourite now. Going back red, actually. Yeah, but yeah. Justin says,
I better not say anything in case I get asked to leave the benches.
Justin says to me, "You're not apparently allowed to use sex to sell whiskey or something like that." You're also not allowed to advertise drinking up a mountain, as our friends at River Rock discovered. So yeah, I saw that. So that's now my new favourite whiskey
All right.
advert.
All right.
I think you might need to go for a quick cold shower there, Marty.
Oh no, I'll be alright. I promise you. yeah. So really good, really nice. So yeah, next up we have Xbox game. There's an Xbox game has been released called Whisky and Zombies, where the idea is it's just dead funny, right? Basically, what it is, you run around shooting zombies. You're a bunch of deep south redneck hillbillies, right? That's the idea. And then if you get shot and ate by a zombie, what you can do is drink moonshine to bring yourself round again. What a class idea! So there's a wee video for this too. It's hilariously funny. Brilliant. What an idea.
Oh my god.
Well, all right, you shipper brains, gather around. Old Red's got a plan. Check this out.
It's the hillbilly apocalypse.
Now, if anybody would like to say that the player watched that game, put their name in the comments to the right-hand side, and I'll block you and stop you from watching. All right, thank you.
You have to take your hat off. The game doesn't look great, but it does look funny.
That's mad.
If you live in America, do yourself a favor, go and buy a real gun and stop watching that nonsense.
The top-down gameplay reminds me of the first Grand Theft Auto, when it was that sort of view. It was like from the very top, and then you were walking around and stuff. There's very little whiskey in it, though. Like,
yeah,
I think they're really grasping at straws, saying whiskey and zombies.
I think they're probably taking a couple of demographics for the corporation that they're. I think that's probably what's happened. But no,
maybe one of the characters' names is Whiskey or something. But,
no, the idea is that it's if you get mauled by a zombie, it's the healing and recuperative powers of whiskey that bring you around again. So,
well, yeah, but I suppose it is water
kind
of
of
life and all that. Yeah.
Well, that's what they did. Didn't they pour it over your wound if you got shot to sterilize it, and then they set it in fire and pull the arrow out or push the arrow out through the other way? And they did in the Camoncheros today, you know.
I think you've been watching Rambo: First Blood. Because that's kind of what he done.
Well, he did it too.
The time's the sound, though. You know?
Yeah. Now, a couple other bits of news, a bit more relevant. Boatyard Distillery in Fermanagh, Joe, down there, have been approved for the new change in the law. I mean, the stupidity of this. It now allows small distilleries the right to sell their product on site and do tours. So he's the first distillery in Northern Ireland that has availed themselves of this law. Imagine producing a product and you can't sell it on site.
Oh, that's right. He's beat them. He's beat them at the court service, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Copeland Distillery got prosecuted for selling their own product at source and stuff. I mean, it's just nuts. So it's the first change in the licensing laws in Northern Ireland in 25 years, or the first big change, I think. So good on them. Well done. Keep it that. Everyone's sort of favourite prucky little distillery, the mighty Cologne, issued earlier on this week that their pot still is 3 years old. So they now actually have proper whiskey on site. Their pot stills aged fully. PX Sherry Cask. You can go on to their Facebook page and look at their blurb about it. And it's a sherry bomb, and it's got the tasting notes in there too. It's going to be released sometime between now and July, is what they say. And it'll be done by ballot. This will be unbelievably sought after. I imagine everybody every dick and his dog will have an entry in for this ballot, and if you're lucky enough to get one, the flippers will have a field day with that because people will be willing to pay big bucks for it. So, it's just the way things is going to be. But everybody will be mad keen to get that and try Cologne's Own Spirit. So, Cask number 1 will be coming soon. Short Cross have said that they are, or they have released this. The malted rye and malted barley. 50-50 bottling, really nice, well worth getting. And Ecklandville have started up doing tours again. Our friends down in Kirkcudbright, Dunvilles, are doing their tours. £20 per person. You get the gin and whiskey and vodka and all of that, and you get shown around. And if you've never been, it's a really cool place to go. Really cool.
And if you want to take the kids, you can take them to get some milk out the back of Mcallen to keep them happy. And then they'll be sick in the car on the way home.
All right, okay. There you go, folks. So that's just the roundup of all the news, all the things I found interesting this week online. So there you go.
Gosh, that was a busy week. That was a half-hour news.
I know. I keep prattling on about stuff, but it's kind of funny. Some of it's great funny.
We need Selena Scott on here.
Who?
Selena Scott, news at 10.
That's about 1985, is it not?
I know. Do you not remember it? No.
I was only a cub at the time, son. I'm not as old as you. Right. Don't forget.
Okay. All right. He's got grey hair. I'm going to start wearing a toupee.
Aye. Velcro strapped down the middle of your hair and that's it.
Listen.
Now, we're going to do our auction roundup with our card from the Whisky Companion and finally get to him. What has he done?
Oh, Justin.
Oh, Jesus, went. Yes.
It's a wee mic muff. If I put it on like this, I look like
you look like Charlie Chaplin. It's that Wonder Eye ring.
That is on the Whisky Companion this week.
No.
If you haven't been zooked already, you're getting zooked now.
Right, that's that. Now, I'm going to hook up to the Whisky Companion. And Carl, what's been happening in the auction world this month?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good so far. We've had quite a few auctions finishing now, because this is a bit later in the month than we usually do it. Most have finished. There's still a couple ongoing that you can see from the Whisky Companion and still bid on. So there will be a little bit more in gross sales to come. Mm-hmm. So the 14.6 million isn't the final number, but it has gone up over last month, and we do have a new entry from Prestige Whisky Auction, who reached out and got added to the site.
Yeah, this brand new whisky auction site starting up. There seems to be, well, when you go on the Companion, there seems to be an awful lot more than there was, 6 months ago, Carl.
There is. I added bottoms as well. Like it's not a new auction site, obviously, but
yeah.
That's a good nod to you. But Carl, when somebody approaches you and asks to be on it, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It was huge, and it was an honor to be asked. So I think it was great. It was from yourselves, actually. It was from yourselves. So.
We met the rather lovely Nicola, and she was starting the new Prestige Whisky Auction. Really nice people. They're trying all about customer service. Really just starting off. So they are putting their stuff forward, and so good on them. Good on them.
Absolutely. And they had a nice site as well.
They have a really nice site, and I know a couple of people that have used. I've been in touch with them, and their customer service it's really, really good. If there's an issue or something, they get onto them straight away, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty
There's
good.
some volume of whiskey going through. There's some volume of whiskey going through there.
Huge volume. So again, like just kind of, you know, without digging into it too much, because I'll be doing the monthly roundup now next week. But you know, just at a quick glance, you see Irish whiskey auctions there out in front for the Irish whiskey auctions, with whiskey bidders quite close behind this month in comparison to previous months. So it seems that they're getting, you know, a lot of traction with their bottles. So that's it's good to see that that competition there. Whiskey Hammer, just to point out, we're going to lead on to this, and we've already alluded to it, but a high average per lot is a bit of an outlier with the big barrel that sold for $1 million. So that was interesting. And
here's a good question for you, Carl. Do whiskey average similar prices on various auction sites, or do they vary widely?
Yeah, so that's, you know, exactly what the Whiskey Companion app helps with. They do vary quite a large amount, depending on where you are. So if you're in Ireland, a lot of people would go just by the Irish auctions. If you look over into the UK, previous to Brexit, they were very similar. You know, when you take into consideration the exchange rate, but now that there's all of the tariffs that are on for delivery, because it's outside of the EU, it does seem to have taken a little bit of an effect, about 10% or 15% off the auction prices over there. But there are still outliers. You know, like there was a Middleton Very Rare 2022 that went for £1,000, where it's only reached €600 over here. Only. But like it really depends. I track an American auction as well.
Hold on. Let's go rewind a bit. So what you're saying to me there, Ian, is we should really smuggle some Mcallen from Ireland to Great Britain and put it on an auction site.
Absolutely. And I
hold on to your book a P&O ferry ticket.
There is a slight issue with this, Justin. You need to pick up the Mcallen first. That's not the easiest thing in the world, because you need your P&O ticket ain't going to be the problem here. The price of the Mcallen.
It is if the ferry like stops midway and then you have to get off a lifeboat.
I was asked 3 weeks ago, sorry, if I was getting the ferry from Skye over to the mainland, do you have to stay on the ferry the whole way across? Well, the alternative is swimming. Yeah, it's Justin and me have a wee code word whenever we start talking about being asked silly questions or people doing stupid things on tour. Griswold's on tour. Yes, Griswold's on tour. It's a bit like the people the other day who decided to pick up an artillery shell and take it through Ben Gurion Airport in Tel Aviv. Oh my God.
Here, Vic Cameron's rubbing it in. He says, "Morning, guys. Watching in Singapore, 5:40 a.m. Waiting for the flight home."
Ah, that's right. He's been in Australia. I've been picking up. He's been in Australia. Vic, one thing I will just say, my old son, you've been slagging with the 100 drams in the year tasting. You're going to have to churn them out at a fair old lick when you get back home. But I've seen from following you in Australia, and I think you must have had a whale of a time.
Right, lovely. John Redmond is getting back to the question at hand. Big variation between sites, as Carl says, but whiskey bidders really catching. IWA seems to make better prices as a seller at the moment. Maybe it's a new auction site and it's got a new audience. That sometimes happens.
Yeah, it is that, and I suppose there's a lot of long-term buyers as well for Irish whiskey auctions, so they'd have that trust built up, and I mean you see what they do day in day out, and I suppose they've been around for 3 years now, I think it is. So
it must be.
Yeah, you can't make the shortcuts, unfortunately.
No, You have to build up that trust. And I mean, look at what Anthony and Key do. You know, I've bought stuff off them when it arrives. I mean, you know, if Putin drops a bomb, your bottles will still get here. They're that well wrapped, which is superb. Yeah, no.
Yeah. But I do have to say though, like I was, you know, when Whiskey Bitters was first run, the first auction, you know, I know Ian and was helping him out with some of the valuation stuff, but I was looking at the prices that they were getting, and you know, as anyone was, I think people were looking at it because he was very active on social media.
Yeah,
and you know, you were looking for the price and looking for the bargains that you could take and then, you know, sell them elsewhere or whatever.
Yeah.
There just didn't seem to be the bargains. People were on it, and you know, the big hitters, the people who were buying you know, the expensive bottles were there, and really, like a lot of them, or not a lot of them, but you know, people don't have the same brand loyalty as it used to be back in the day.
Yeah. No, they don't. Absolutely not.
And you see it in every industry, not just auctions.
Of course. But I think you're doing yourself a little bit of a disservice, because there's plenty of people who use the companion to look up to see what auctions are up and running, and it's very easy just to go across the various auctions that are up. So yeah, I think you've played your part in that too, my friend.
Well, hopefully. I mean, yeah, I scrape all the live auctions, so I mean, when you're searching for a valuation, if there's one that's live or there's one in a retail store, you can just select it and you'll be able to see it. So, yeah.
So anybody looking for something, the companion's the way forward.
Absolutely.
Now, what have we got next this week, Carl?
Yeah, so moving on, just like we have done the last couple of times, I just wanted to mention the charity aspect of things. I think it's very important to give kudos where it's deserved, and it doesn't get talked about a lot. I think a lot of people focus on the big price items and
yeah. Well,
so I think it's worth mentioning. And this month it was huge, the amount of money raised for charity, and I think it'll be similar next month with Irish Whiskey Auctions Ukraine charity auction coming up in a couple of days. But Scotch Whiskey Auctions had a barrel that was bottled specifically for the Balkans war effort, and that raised 25,000 euros when it's all converted from the hammer price.
Yeah,
so that was great to see. Whiskey Auctioneers, again, quite a large amount for charity, 11,700. And then Irish Whiskey Auctions, again, they're very very consistent with their auctions, having a charity aspect to it. Every single auction,
single auction.
Yeah, not just, you know, a charity auction here and there. And they raised €1,200, which is brilliant. And then Whiskey Bitters had €270 from 2 lots that they had on their auction. So
Marty, you noticed something odd about these auctions, but didn't you?
I didn't notice something odd. I noticed me and Carl were talking about this earlier on today. Scotch Whiskey Auctions have listed 2 bottles of Springbank, which were released as special bottlings to raise money for refugees from Ukraine. Now, when this bottling was released, we kind of criticised that a little bit as a release, because it should have been auctioned there and then. The bottle was £60. That's what it was being sold at the retailers. And lots of the auction sites said that they weren't going to, if anyone tried to sell it, that they weren't going to list it. And quite rightly so, I think. But Scotch Whiskey Auctions have. And if I'm honest, I'm a bit disappointed that they've done that. Now, it doesn't actually say on the site, maybe it's being auctioned and the money going to a charity. I don't know, but I think if it was, it probably would say on the listing.
Strange one.
It is, and it does seem to be happening a lot in recent times, which is a shame. You know, these bottles are for charity, and the money should be going to the charity alone.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people will say, you know, they pay the money, it's their bottle. you know,
and
fair enough.
And that's a fair enough point. But the auction site is making their money out of it. And when they do something and they say it's for charity on one hand, and then do this when all the other auction sites are saying no, we're not going to list them, I think it's in bad taste more than anything else.
Big time.
What's next, Carl? Then?
So then,
wow,
the next one was the barrel that we were talking about.
Wow.
So yeah. So I for people who don't know, I convert all of the origin currency of the auction house into euros, because I use euros. So it's just
in the Republic.
Yeah. So this is
for anyone in the US who's not sure what a euro is, it's something very similar to a dollar. Okay, convert currency wise.
Yeah. So this, after fees, was about 1.2 million euros. So that was it was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And again, as Marty was saying, it was forgotten. Whether that's true or not, I don't believe it is. I think it was part of the story, to make it a bit more lucrative. But I do see a lot of people now talking about casks, and it was always kind of in the background when I started looking at whiskey, and people were like, "Oh, whiskey investment is through casks, and you get 40% year-on-year investments and all this sort of crap." And the likes of these, the big ticket items, when you have RTE writing about it, and with all the big newspapers and news outlets online writing about this whiskey that was bought for 5,000 and sold for $1 million, you're just going to have an influx of people that are going to be looking at this space now. So exactly. I did want to bring a bit of attention to this, and I've noticed on the last couple of auctions, there's been more and more barrels coming up for sale in auction houses that generally didn't have barrels for sale. So it's just kind of a buyer beware type of thing. Yeah, there is a lot of hidden costs, and not all barrels will go for mad money.
If you buy a single cask, in terms of an investment, it's not the greatest of investments, because you don't have the license to sell it in wholesale licenses and so on and so forth. There are investment firms, asset management companies, who buy lots of casks, and you can buy those casks and they manage them for you and sell them on. You can make money at that, but you need to be spending quite a lot of money. It's the same as any other asset, there's ways of doing this, but buying a single cask thinking that you're going to, in a few years' time, sell it for £1 million, you're not. You're just not. So
you have examples here on the next two slides where we did have casks go for I wouldn't say big money, like well, it is big money to me anyway, but I mean, it's not,
not the Justin, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. But you have the likes of, the first one there, Port Charlotte 2003. So, it's nearly 20 years old, 19-year-old whiskey, and that's going for 40,000. So it's a hogshead, so it'll be a 500-litre barrel.
Yeah.
So
what kind of money would they have sold for at the time? But I mean, could you have bought that Port Charlotte, for several £100s back in the day?
I wouldn't say it'd be hundreds. I'd say more likely thousands. It wouldn't be far off what the Mcallen was back in 1989, or 88. It'd probably be in between the 5,000 and 10,000 range, I'd say. But again, it's 39, 40,000. Well, take into consideration you have all the fees on top of that, so you're still talking about 45,000 for the for the barrel. Now, will it go up? Probably, but it's not a guarantee. And you'll have the angel share that comes out of it. So depending on how long you wait to bottle it or to sell it, then it's a depreciating asset in that sense. So that was interesting.
The one thing about cask investments, if you're doing it on a large scale, as I say, it's basically the same as any other commodity or asset. You're be buying it in large scales. In the UK, because it's a depreciating asset, capital gains tax becomes a bit of doesn't
murky. And
it doesn't affect it because it's seen as a depreciating asset, even though it goes up in value. So there are companies who buy bulk casks to sell at bulk. That's the way of doing it, where the people can make decent amount of return. But they have a massive outlay. When you're buying a single cask, that's a different issue. That's more of a hobby thing, and there's so many new distilleries that have started up and been selling single casks that, in terms of actually making big profits, is probably slim. You're far better investing in a distillery that you actually care about the people that are there, the story behind it, and having some affinity with it. And lots of the distilleries will buy them back off you at a return, which is much greater. So you can make a little bit of money if you wish, or you could pay the money and have it all bottled and have something a bit special for yourself. But don't be lured into the idea if you buy one cask and in 10 years' time you're going to sell it for 10 times what you bought it for. That's not what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's like anything. You can get lucky, but it doesn't mean that it's a good investment.
Oh yeah, yeah. Don't see if you buy into one of these founders casks like Cairn that we were sponsored by a few weeks ago, or the Shawnee bottles down at Ardra. You're buying into the story and buying into that founding heritage, and enjoy that rather than worrying about making vast sums of money. That's the way you look at it.
Yeah, you're helping a small business.
You're helping a small business, and the appreciation that these guys give you is second to none.
And you could get something nice to give your clients in 5, 10, 15 years' time. Yeah,
absolutely.
Really, really
exactly.
nice. Because I know some people have the Downtown Radio bottle from Bushmills. I mean, when the Bushmills do corporate account bottles now, would they do that now? They wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it.
You'd be if you're going to get them to do it, you'd have to pay huge amounts of money to get them to do it. I would think.
Yeah.
I'll join you in a cologne.
What one are you on?
It's the dark rum.
The dark rum. I left at the oatmeal stout one because I haven't had this for ages. Ages.
Lovely stuff.
It is lovely stuff.
Well, for the week that's in it, you know.
Yeah, for the week that's in it. Now, what's James saying there? Tell us,
He's saying whiskey's a long game in every way. You hold an early distillery cask for less than 10 years. It's not an investment. Less than 10, it's the fun of the journey.
Exactly. You're buying into a business that you kind of want to see succeeding.
Yeah,
that's the way you look at it. You know,
I'd even say after 10 years, it's not necessarily an investment. It's still a fun journey, and I mean, there's cases where casks from 10 years from a certain distillery would not be an investment. You know,
I actually heard not that long ago about a company who put whiskey into a maturation unit for a few years, and it wasn't very old when they put it in, and they done all the tests on it to see what the ABV was, and they left it for like 2 years, and when they came back, it was less than 40%.
No way.
Needless to say, there's legal implications going to be happening about this. I'll not say anybody about who it was or where it was, but yeah, not good.
Not good. That's not good at all.
No, really not.
Yeah, just to round out the casks there. So I just wanted to touch on these ones here, especially from Celtic. So it seems that Celtic have kind of gone into the cask buying and selling. Industry. So I mean, they sell casks from Celtic Whisky Shop, which are quite good value, and I think they rent an area for their casks, and most of or all of the liquid is from G&D. But they've on the last 3 auctions, they've had multiple casks in each auction. So it's something to keep an eye on, just to see if it continues. I know that their auction this month has a couple of casks in it as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that continues. There's some decent prices coming out of them, and you can the fun thing is you can actually compare these to the retail price and see what your return is year on year. So that's an interesting one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
attention.
but I think single grain. I see there I was going for €1,200. Single grain kind of looked down a little bit on. People. I don't think a lot of people understand single grain whiskey, because it's a new sort of mark. But that seems very cheap to me. Very cheap for any cask of whiskey.
It is. Yeah. And there was one more that went on whiskey. I think it was whiskey online auctions, and it went for £900. So that was an interesting one as well. Didn't make the cut.
Justin, that better not be my birthday present, Justin. By the way, I don't want no cask at €900 or £900 or whatever it is. I want the Mcallen stuff from you, boy. All right.
Listen, if I bid in something like that and won it, Customs and Excise would be round at my door. There'd be always some sort of problem with it. You know what I'm like? I stop at the chippy and they can't even have chicken left. You know what I mean?
Oh, stop.
It's dead funny. But
what's next? What's next here? What's next?
Yeah. So next, I just wanted to touch on tealing actually, which I thought was interesting. So they've obviously brought out a couple of high ticket items with their two 32-year-old single malts that came out just a couple of months ago. Both of them showed up on the auction, and neither of them met their reserve. So I thought that was interesting, just to see where the
has the bubble burst.
Well, the bubble never really started for tealing.
Yeah,
it's never.
That's kind of what I wanted to talk about. There was never really a bubble, and turning to the revival set that's right beside it. That went for €750, and there's multiple entries of that revival set going for €700 to €750. It just does not seem to go up. And I have these lists that you can view, and I have one for tealing revival, and the average combined price for buying each individual bottle at auction, which is generally a lot more when you go for a set. For the last 3 months, you could have got all 5 of them for €702. Hammer price. So it would be very similar in terms of the hammer price here.
I mean, it's surprising because the liquid's fantastic. The presentation, the presentation, that's superb, and it's named after. I would credit Dr. John Teeling with being the reviver of Irish whiskey. Without him, it wouldn't be in the position it is now. There's no two ways about that. So you've got great liquid, great presentation, great backstory to it. It's just not selling.
That's the issue. It doesn't make sense.
When you see people paying £1,000 for a 2022 Middleton Very Rare, it's like, Jesus Christ. It just baffles me.
It really is baffling. And I think there are a lot more people coming into this now, and they're going for the higher ends, or not the higher ends, but the higher age statement whiskies. And the likes of Teeling have brought out those high age statements, so they are catering to a market that's there at retail, and it's just it's just a bit surprising that it's not emulated on the secondary as well. And it's so unemulated that it's half the price of retail.
Well, the one thing a lot of people don't know this, or maybe they do, I don't know, that when John Teeling took over Cooley, he actually bought the old stills from Old Cumber.
Mm-hmm.
They went over to Scotland, and he picked them up and brought them back again. So he bought these old stills from the 1950s, or probably a bit earlier. I don't know how old they were when they were used. So he's actually bringing them back. He did everything right. So you're probably drinking what's a proper Old Cumber, if you like, run through the Old Cumber stills. It's 32 years old.
Mhm.
Beautifully presented with a great backstory, and it doesn't go up in price. Baffles me. Baffles me.
Yeah, it's strange, and I just saw John Redmond there commenting about the Powers rebrand flopping, and Teeling should do a rebrand, and I think that's an interesting point. I don't know whether a rebrand would help, because they have rebranded their very rare or vintage release that they have for their high age statements.
If I'm honest, I really like the bottlings. I think that
Yeah.
they've got a real nice weight to them. That lovely cap.
It's beautiful, yeah.
I mean, the whole thing. It's beautiful, But it just seems very strange. I see Connor's brought up that they were running through malt rather. The Cumber were running through pot still, and they were running through malt.
Right.
Yeah, I know there is a difference, but essentially what you're doing is you're being just run through the same stills. That's kind of the point I'm making. The fact that he had this old connection with at least some heritage. I mean, at that point, nobody had a bloody clue what pot still whiskey was. They certainly tried to sell it to anybody outside of. I mean, even people just wouldn't have had a notion. But yeah, it seems strange, but
it is. And even like before we move on to the batch 1 of the Teeling single pot still, that's only not even making retail. Most of the time, I know there have been some that have gone for 120 or 130 euro, and some that went for 70, but the majority have been going for around the 40 euro mark. And when you think about it, it's like that was one of their, or I think it was their first proper distilled liquid that they did.
Yeah.
First pot still out of Dublin in whatever it was, 50 years. And you look at the likes of Waterford Pilgrimage, came out 150 euro, 750 euro now easily. And the Teeling single pot still was 60 euro. And
if I'm honest, I know collectability is one thing, but the Teeling pot still wouldn't light my fire, if I'm totally honest. It's okay. They have much better liquid. The one thing I probably would have as a criticism of Teeling is they brought out so many different cask finishes that it's really quite difficult to collect. The collections that they bring out, there's five bottlings and all that kind of stuff. Those are superb, but the cask finishing stuff, you walk in and there's, and I think if they probably just relaxed that a little bit and brought them out over a longer period of time, it would probably do them a better service.
I think they went down that route just because they were taking so much stock from Cooley and then Great Northern that they needed to have that edge, and I suppose it's indicative of what Irish whiskey was for the last 5-10 years.
But
you needed to get something that was so different to get a new product and get it out there. So
I see Peter says they need to promote the story a lot more. I think one of the great assets of Irish whiskey is Dr. John Teeling. He's a fabulous man, unbelievably clever, unbelievably smart.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I was actually just in the distillery there last month, and they've changed it. So if you haven't been in it since the pandemic, go back to it now. I was in it literally before the pandemic started, like the day before, and just by chance, and it's been completely redone. So get in if you can. But the first thing that they show you is this video that they created. And I was with my girlfriend's dad, and he was just like very much like a more of a like a shoe brand or a t-shirt brand video. It was more about Dublin inner city than anything about Teeling. So he's like, I still don't know who Teeling are or what they do. So
I've actually done a tour of the Teeling distillery led by Dr. John. He came down and done the whole thing himself, and he everybody in the palm of his hand. He was telling everybody, and he was telling them about the passion he put into it, and the thought and just everything that you would want from somebody like him. He was superb with it. He was just, he had these guys eating out the palm of his hand. I took down. It was superb.
Oh, he is brilliant.
He is brilliant. He is brilliant.
And it's so crazy that he's a teetotaler as well.
Yeah,
he revolutionised Irish whiskey. Never
absolutely revolutionised. Saved an industry. Basically, brought a whole industry back.
Well, diamonds are forever. Listen, what's the last one that you have to tell us about?
Yeah, so the last one was one that, again, reserve wasn't met, but I thought it was an interesting one to speak about. So it was the Firstborn. So again, kind of has that link to Teeling, because it's the GND brand that was brought out. So it was three individual bottles that were brought out, and I never saw these for sale myself. The first time I saw them was when I was actually up in the Irish Whiskey Auctions offices, and Anthony has a set. So I'm not actually sure really if they were on general sale or if it was direct from G&D and it was people in the know. But I thought it was interesting that it did get up to €1,000 and didn't meet reserve. So I think the guide price was 1,500 to 2,000. So it was the reserve must have been set around there. So I'd like to get your thoughts on it, Marty. What you thought? Is it a reach?
I'd be honest. I love whenever people say it reserves on things and you have no idea what they're going to be. It's that to me. They should have a starting bid on it of somewhere that you can get. GND, let's be honest, at the minute is the backbone of all the new whiskey distilleries. I mean, the quality of liquid that they supply is superb. But they themselves are, they don't put themselves up forward. They let everybody else do the selling for them, that third party stuff. So will it ever really be collectible? I don't think so. If I'm totally honest, it doesn't tick a lot of the boxes for me.
Sure, but I don't think they're going to be following through on that brand, which I think is huge.
Yeah.
So it was simply because it was their aged stock and they wanted to have something to mark the occasion. But I think they're going down the route of we will supply, bulk whiskey to people.
They sell in volume to other people. So it wouldn't be something I would want to buy. It wouldn't be something I would collect. There's been a sort of a lack of the stuff that I like over the past while. A lot of the old, early bottlings, the old bottlings from the early 20th century and all that kind of stuff. There seems to be quite a lot of that has now died down. There's one bottle, he appears here, and so on and so forth. Those are the bottles that I really like. I like that heritage bottles, the vintage bottles. And I think that there seems to be that the old pubs that had them sitting lurking about in a display case over COVID have thought, well, right, let's fire these out. So there seems to be a slight downturn in them. Those are the bottles that I like getting.
Yeah.
Here's a good point that Peter brought up. Years ago, Kit Kat brought out a vast selection of different bars: chunky, peanut, orange, mint. The sales of the original collapsed. People were like rabbits caught in headlights. Too much choice confuses people, unless you're Japanese, and they have over 200 different flavors of Kit Kat in Japan, including wasabi.
No, I think that's a fair point, Peter, and I think it goes back to what James was saying earlier, where are we entering the spirit-led era instead of cask-led era? And I think that is the case, where we're seeing more and more distilleries, like Cologne just came online as an aged stock. So I think we will see more and more where it's more about the spirit and the differences that the distiller has on it rather than the cask and the aging. So there's so much to be played around with that we haven't experienced in Irish whiskey, with the fermentation, with the grains, with the mash bill.
Well, certainly now that they're going to be changing the technical file for pot still. I mean, you're going to have so much of a wider variety. I mean, the likes of this, the 50-50 malted rye, malted barley. I mean, you're going to be people are going to be experimenting with all this kind of stuff, and the spirit will predominantly lead the way. I think Boan, when they did the vintage mash bills thing with Finoan, certainly that was hinting at what's going to be coming forward. So I think that's probably a fairly good point, James. And once his spirit starts arriving, we're looking forward to that. The grain's in. Peat it. Lovely
stuff.
Lovely stuff.
And that's assuming that peated briquettes aren't outlawed. That might be for another night, though.
Half of Ireland's a peat bog, right? The entire Irish whiskey industry would be using the peat. I mean, oh my good God!
Yeah,
I mean, it's just there's times you think. Okay, this is my view of a lot of environmentalists, right? I saw a guy earlier on, another thing, where he said about organic barley doesn't use any fertilizer. And you're like, yeah, it does. This is the bit of a confusion. If you're the Soil Association in the UK oversees the organic certification. If you use artificial fertilizer, right, you can't be organic. Artificial fertilizer, nitrogen fertilizer is what I'm thinking of here. Nitrogen fertilizer is made from the air, right? So it's made basically condensed nitrogen from the air. You're not allowed to use that and label yourself as organic. What you have to use is chicken shit. Now, the chicken shit comes from battery hens. So battery hens get put on the organic. That's okay, that's organic. But you can't do it from nitrogen from the air because that's a chemical process. And you're like, but hang on, I'd rather take nitrogen out of the sky rather than battery hens. And that was an issue for it a while back. Yeah, it's kind of nuts, and it's that sort of mad laws with these environmental. You take how little peat is used in Scotland and the industries that it supports in Scotland and going to be more so in Ireland. I think, oh my God, we can replace the peat,
Yeah.
But it is nuts. It's nuts. But is that us for this evening, Card? Is that your?
That's my auction roundup. So I'll have a full monthly auction roundup done next week. So keep an eye out on the social media, and I'll be posting it there.
Excellent, excellent. We will once you put it out, we will share it. Now, I have a thing that I want to talk about because.
Oh my God!
I know. We Greta. Did you ever?
No, she hasn't.
Did you ever see that? Did you ever see the wee comedy skit from Scottish comedians? I can't remember the names. And they're sitting there, they're eating a Chinese and all.
Oh, they're being Greta Thunberg's mum and dad, and they're eating the Chinese while she's away.
I know you hear, Mommy, Daddy, I am home. And they're like, oh, fuck's sake, I eat the Chinese. Turn them light bulbs off. It's funny. But this is what I want. This is what I want to do. Whenever you've read something over and over, and you hear something often, and then you think, well, that's obviously right, and then you read something and go, it's the first time I heard that, and then you hear it again the same day. This book, Beverages, Past and Present. Okay, now this book dates from 1908. Look at this. I think it was published in 1908. Okay, so it's funny because it goes through all of these, beverages from Germany back in the day. Colognes, Balkans mentioned in this and stuff. The back when it was, but it's quite good. fairly authoritative. It talks about Mexico drinks and Central American drinks and so on and so forth. Anyway, we've always been told that the word whiskey comes from Ushkaba or Ushkaba or wherever, however you want to pronounce it for the various regions of Gaelic speaking. This gives an alternative origin for the word whiskey.
Okay.
So it does, right? And it cites where it got this from. Okay. If our lexicographers will turn their attention to that good old English word whiskey or whiskey, and then bear in mind the tendency of people for nicknaming, the matter will assume another different aspect. Okay. Whiskey means a light chassis, which came into use originally to avoid the taxes that were levied upon vehicles according to their size. The name originated in the country districts and is derived from the root whisk. Okay, the liquor too was made in the same places and were very often in spots where prying eyes were not able to discern what was going on. For marketing the liquor, this vehicle was in great demand among the smugglers, for owing to its lightness, rapid time could be made when necessity demanded. The law at this time was that all liquors that were to be transported from country to country should be in barrels or casks of not less than 60 gallons capacity. And this, of course, demanded the service of a strong and heavy wagon. The smugglers could not handicap themselves with such a weight, or so cumbersome a means of travel, and the one-horse whiskey holding a cask of 5 to 10 gallons, safely hidden beneath the seat, not only allayed suspicion, but also an exceedingly handy vehicle for travelling through byroads and unfrequented paths. Basically what they say is, and they cite references to this from various dictionaries and so on and so forth, that actually the name comes from to whisk, as in to get stuff in and out, and that is actually where the word whiskey comes from. The fact that it's not Ushkaba. Now, I read this twice in one day in two totally different things. So, yeah, obviously you can't go by that. This book's fairly rare.
We have an expert here. Connor says it sounds like shite to him.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny because Mr. T.F. Henderson in Old World Scotland says possibly the first to introduce Ushkaba to the lowland were the monks, and he goes on to explain how the word comes from a slightly different source. So,
is this a whisk here? Is this a whisk here? Because a shay would have two wheels, one either side, and would be balanced. So that looks like a whisk to me. I mean, you know.
So small light cart to maneuver in and out.
That would be a small light cart, the sort that would use in the Comancheros, to ride around the sort of prairies.
And would it the word that was in it, was a whiskey with a Y or with an EY?
No, it's the actual name of the little cart was a whisk. So yeah, it's named as a whisk, and then well, the E and the EY basically was regional, depending on what distillery decided to put it in. So
did it in the book? Did it say Y or EY?
Doesn't well, in the book it sort of says E and EY.
It says E and EY. Okay.
Yeah,
I was going to say maybe Scotch is from whisk, and we came from Ushkaba.
I mean, the book itself.
You'll be saying it comes from Whist, the card game, next WHIST.
No, as I say, the book itself is actually, it's really interesting. It's an American book. It's actually from the States.
Oh, it's authoritative on anything. Then it's like Facebook. It knows everything in Wikipedia.
No,
and Twitter. It's authoritarian. Yes. Oh, authoritative.
But I mean, it does cite its sources and stuff. So yeah, there you go. An alternative idea of where the word whiskey actually comes from.
This is like the and finally and use at 10. We'll give Trevor Watson the last word. Marty, well, why let the truth get in the way of a good story?
Exactly, Trevor. Exactly.
Good way to end.
Now, anyway, Carl, always a pleasure talking to you, buddy. And anybody who wants to know pretty much anything about what's going on in whiskey world, auction-wise and sales-wise and availability-wise, go and download the Whiskey Companion. And Carl will give you all the knowledge you need.
Absolutely.
Catch you same time, same place next week, 10 p.m. YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, LinkedIn.
Oh, just before we go, I have to thank these guys again, because my son is heading to Florida on Tuesday, and Cologne have given him a bit of sponsorship money. So thank you very much, guys. I absolutely, I'm in your debt. So if anybody else wants to sponsor my son, let me know. Just drop me a DM and we'll get him sorted out. But thanks again.
I'm going to Madison Square Gardens at midnight tonight at the International Airport. Does anybody want to pay my private jet bill, please, Mr. Teeling? Anybody? No.
You don't need anybody to pay your private jet bill because you don't pay it anyway.
I use one of my nom de plumes. Yes. There you go. Good night. Banana Snock. There you go. Thanks again, everybody. Really good show tonight. Really good show. It's a really good show every week. Make sure you catch it on YouTube.